My memory was that we sat around the table for a couple hours, had productive conversation. As soon as Secretary Nash walked in the door, you handed him the first thing that happened is you handed him the request.
Yes. That's because we've been waiting a week or 10 days.
Yeah, I don't know about any of that, but.
Yeah,
but
well,
then-
I do, and that's what I'm telling you, that's relevant.
I understand. And then we had a pretty robust conversation for a while, and after a couple of hours, after that conversation had been completed, that's when there was some arrangement made to follow up the next week.
On Monday.
Yeah, and I don't recall
Yeah.
if it was Monday or Tuesday or the next week or whatever, but that's my recollection of the conversation.
Fact of the matter is, none of this is here nor there at this point. We know now that the law doesn't require this, and once we have notice of the actual law, we're not going back to that. We can't, we know what the law is at this point.
So but you would enlighten the secretary as to what's going on with it. You're not trying to keep that from it?
In terms of what's
Yeah,
happening?
what expenditures?
Absolutely. In fact, I put the expenditures in front of him to review, and that did not happen that day. And it's straightforward stuff like the OMS lease on this building, software licensing for vital signs, yeah, equipment for the new veterans cemetery. I mean, it's nothing nefarious or really complicated at all.
In those purchase agreements, do they have an executive summary or something similar?
Yes, it's a little descriptor of what it is.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, we're gonna.
Just one more point of clarification. As it started to get late, was there a time or the secretary was just gonna stop by on Monday?
He just said that he would stop by. There was no specific time. I
As it started
recall.
getting late in the day, did you give a courtesy reach out?
No,
to
sir.
somebody who's new and is probably drinking from a fire hose
But
in a new cabinet
not
job?
in
Did we
a
just say,
con-
hey, were you gonna stop by today or not?
That's not my responsibility. And the fact of the matter is the course of conduct that had already gone, the deputy director's been stood up, I mean, and forced to reschedule meetings that have disrupted our calendar to do things related to this. I mean, that is not our job as the staff to do that. And again, the law doesn't require it.
I'm curious, Director Kintsel, did you already have a report like this that, would have given you some talk over there? It seems like,
What do you mean?
well, I mean, this one is dated August 19th, and I think that the week we're talking about, it would be the week of the 7th, maybe?
Meeting was scheduled
For the
for the
5th.
fifth, so that would have been the 8th.
Yep, or week of the 8th. So, I mean, I guess I'm curious, you know, did we have opinion from our general counsel prior to this memorandum that gave an opinion that this was not
No.
a legal executive order?
No.
Okay, so I guess what I'm driving at is, whenever you made the decision not to follow up with Secretary Nash.
I didn't make any decision not to follow up. He did not show up,
Okay,
and he committed to do that, Commissioner.
I'm not making excuses for Secretary Nash. What I'm asking about is typically if someone makes a commitment to me, and again, this is just me. If they say, hey, I'm gonna be there on Monday, and they don't show up, and it's something that I need, I'm gonna reach out to them again and say, hey, I need item X by Wednesday or whatever the next day that I need it by is.
Yes, normally that is what you would do, but in
Yeah.
this situation with the course of conduct that has occurred since Secretary Nash has been here, there's clearly political game playing going on, and at some point, I'm not gonna put up with that anymore.
Okay.
And so that was the impetus for having the research done to see if this was even a legal requirement, and as it turns out, it's not.
So I'm gonna drive back to mission focus as opposed to playing political games. And that is, why in the world did we have an emergency funding request that hadn't been completed and filled out and you doing everything in your power to get that done? I don't care if you like the guy, hate the guy, love the guy.
What emergency request are you talking about?
Oh,
These
I'm
were
sorry,
not emergencies.
I thought I had an email detailing an emergency.
No.
A friendly,
There are limits also, I might be
There
able
was
to help you.
but there was an email that made it seem pretty urgent.
yeah,
We're not gonna be able to fulfill our mission without.
Yes.
that's,
Yes.
and I recall something in the news similar to that.
Yes.
Somehow we weren't gonna be able to fulfill our mission. So if the tie-in was that we weren't gonna be able to fulfill our mission, to me, that constitutes an emergency. There may be a legal definition.
Not under the law, it
that's
doesn't.
Different than
And
that.
there's also a threshold that you can't go over, and this was well over $600,000 worth of acquisitions
Okay,
that we would be processing as an emergency.
so then I mean, prior to the 19th, we would have assumed that we needed Secretary Nash's.
By the 19th, those acquisitions had been waiting about 3 weeks for the approval that was being required.
And it appears through Director Kinsel's, kind of points, that he had no interest in reaching back out to get those signed, correct?
He was notified, I brought them physically to him, Commissioner, and he did not sign them. He represented that he would sign them on Monday. He was a no-call, no-show on Monday, and based on his previous conduct and frankly disrespectful treatment of the deputy in other similar instances, we're not gonna do that.
Okay.
And at that point, it became apparent that the wise thing to do is to check the law to see if this is even legal, which it is not. So this whole discussion is neither here nor there, and it's starting to feel very political.
Director, I'm not here for anything other than to make sure that we're providing the things that our veterans need. And if
Me
they
too.
if they need a software to run a freaking monitor or to schedule CNAs or whatever, and we need money for that software, and it's on, what I'm gonna refer to is, I'm gonna put myself in your shoes. If it's on me to get the money for that software, I don't care if I've gotta go sit in front of the guy's door, if that's what the process appears to be at that point, prior to this memorandum and opinion. I'm gonna go sit at the guy's office, I'm gonna go track him down, I'll hunt him down, I don't care what it takes, because that's the mission.
That's not what's going on here. And I'm gonna tell you right now clearly, Commissioner, I'm not gonna chase the secretary all over town trying to get a signature from him when it was right in front of him. He wouldn't do it. And then the following workday, he did not show up, even though he represented he would.
Something that might clarify this, the procedure is for you to present the bills and to get them signed off. However, on the 10th of August, the secretary emailed and he reiterated on the 26th of August, I offer to meet your staff to review the expenses. That's not how it works.
And I've told him that multiple times, and he
agree.
continues
I
to
agree.
approach my staff directly.
Hold on.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not making excuses for the secretary,
Well-
he can answer for his own behavior. What I'm asking about is, since you are the conduit, yeah, I mean, you're the guy. So why in the world didn't you grab whatever material you have pertinent to these purchases and go track them down?
Because I have work to do, Commissioner. The fact of the matter is.
It's hard to do that without funding, correct? Director?
Commissioner, this is political. And this agency has been running like let me finish.
Yes.
I've let you talk.
Okay.
This agency has been running like a Swiss clock until the arrival of John Nash. And the fact of the matter is, this commission and this staff have worked together I'm not done. Have worked together very harmoniously until Mr. Nash showed up. What's happening at this point is political retaliation. He's been sent over here by the governor to create a firestorm, which in turn will be blamed on me as the director. But the fact of the matter is, there's retaliation here, and this is one way it's being expressed.
So I have a question.
All right.
I wanna, for the record, I wanna point something out. You and I met at a Blue fundraiser in
Yes.
Ada, correct?
And you offered to do a fundraiser for me and never called me back, and the next time I've seen you is right here doing this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the truth.
So again, am I here as, your opposition, or am I here because I'm a veteran?
I have no idea. I don't know what discussions were made at the time of your appointment. I hope you're here to actually serve the veterans. I would
Okay.
assume that, I hope so.
Excuse
Resent the
me, Secretary,
insinuation.
I hate to be obstinate, but this is getting out of hand. What the director done was his job, to the best of his knowledge, to what he could do at that time. And how he does his job can be discussed later, but on this here, I think we beat this horse to death.
I agree. We do have the executive session to discuss more later. With that being said, we're gonna move on to the next roles of the commission and cabinet secretary.
This was requested by a commissioner that I cover the roles
That's my request.
of the Veterans Commission, the executive director, and the cabinet secretary. So I wanted to start out with the role of the Veterans Commission.